Pause for a moment and listen to the voice inside your head. How does it speak to you? Does it comfort you or correct you? Does it lift you up or list your mistakes? For years, you may have believed that self-criticism makes you better, that scolding yourself is discipline, that perfection is love. But here is the quiet truth your heart has been waiting to hear. Nothing heals in the presence of attack. Not a body, not a mind, not a soul. Imagine for a moment a life where your inner voice is gentle, where you wake and hear, "Good morning, dear one, I'm proud of you." That is your dream outcome. A mind that feels like home, a body that relaxes because it knows it is safe inside your thoughts. Healing flows naturally in such a home. Now imagine the opposite, the nightmare you already know too well. Every time you look in the mirror and sigh, every time you replay old mistakes, every time you call yourself names you would never say to a child, that quiet cruelty tightens the body, hardens the heart, and delays the very healing you pray for. You may think, but I've lived this way too long. Can I really change? Yes, because change does not begin in perfection. It begins in willingness. Thousands of people just like you, have discovered that when they replaced criticism with kindness, their lives unfolded like new blooms. That's the proof, the perceived likelihood that this works grows each time you remember that others have healed through love, not punishment. Consider the risk of continuing as you are. Another year of tension in your shoulders, of sleepless nights, of striving and never arriving. Every harsh word you think about yourself echoes through your body as stress, as fatigue, as pain. But the moment you begin to speak to yourself as a friend, the body receives a new signal. It is safe to let go now. You do not need decades. Healing can begin in 1 hour, one thought, one breath. That is the speed of grace, and it is far easier than you imagine. You don't have to fix every flaw. You don't have to earn your own love. You only need to stop interrupting it. Each time you catch yourself saying, "I should have known better," answer softly, "I am learning and I love myself anyway." That is the whole practice. Soon, something beautiful happens. Your status in your own eyes changes. You stand taller, breathe deeper, speak kinder. Others notice it too. Your children see calm where tension once lived. Your partner hears warmth instead of apology. Your friends feel safe in your presence because you are finally safe with yourself. Look back at your timeline. Past you were judged, maybe by others, maybe by yourself. Present you are awakening to choice. Future you will live in a body that responds to love, not criticism. You are not broken. You are unfolding. Today, choose to become your own best friend. Look into the mirror right now and say, "I approve of myself. I am willing to love myself exactly as I am." Say it once for your past, once for your present, once for your future. Because when you stop criticizing yourself, you stop standing in the way of the miracle trying to reach you. Begin today, speak gently, and watch your life begin to heal. When I look back upon my life, I see how early I learned to doubt myself. Before I could read or reason, I had already absorbed the tone of disapproval that drifted through the air around me. I was told what was wrong with me far more often than what was right. Like many of us, I came to believe that love must be earned by perfection.
Children are like soft clay. They take the shape of the words that mold them. A careless remark can leave an impression that lasts a lifetime.
When a child hears you are bad, she does not question. It becomes her truth. And so I grew into a woman who could achieve much, yet never feel good enough. The outer world changed, but the inner voice remained the same. Stern teacher. That inner voice became my constant companion. It scolded me when I failed and doubted me when I succeeded. It said, "You should have known better. You should have done more." I believed that criticism was discipline, that it would keep me in line and make me better. But instead, it drained the joy from even the simplest moments. The mind, when left unchecked, becomes a harsh parent, repeating the same old lectures long after the lesson is learned. We carry the voices of the past as though they were our own. We become both the child who is scolded and the adult who scolds. This is the cycle of self-criticism, unquestioned, habitual, and exhausting. For years, I lived inside that prison of judgment. My body bore its marks: tight shoulders, weary breath, restless sleep. The constant tension was not caused by the world outside me, but by the battle inside my own mind. Every thought of not enough sent ripples through my body. Every sigh of disappointment was a command for the muscles to contract, for the heart to brace itself. We are taught to believe that criticism leads to improvement, but I have learned that nothing blossoms under attack. A garden cannot be beaten into bloom. It must be tended with patience and care. In the same way, the soul opens only in the warmth of kindness. Criticism does not awaken potential. It silences it through fear. When we speak harshly to ourselves, we do not correct the past, we simply repeat it. The moment we condemn, the body tightens and the heart closes. We delay healing by believing that punishment is progress. Yet no wound ever healed under a slap. Healing begins only in the presence of love, the way a flower opens only to light. I began to notice how I spoke to myself in small moments, dropping a cup, missing an appointment, forgetting a name. Each time I would sigh or mutter an unkind word. These small cruelties seemed harmless, but they were constant, and constancy shapes character. Slowly, I realized I was narrating my life in a voice of blame. The truth is, most people never notice the tone of their inner voice. They move through the day repeating should, must, why didn't I, until those words become the background music of their lives. Awareness is the first miracle. The moment we pause and hear the voice clearly, we are no longer fully under its spell. When I first heard my own inner critic clearly, I was astonished by how cruel it was. I would never have spoken that way to a friend, yet I spoke it to myself without hesitation. That realization broke my heart, but it also began to free me. You cannot change what you refuse to hear. The very act of listening kindly begins to soften the voice. I tell people often, notice the words that follow, I am. These are the instructions you give to life. If you say, I am stupid, I am lazy, I am not good enough, life responds by proving you right. But if you say, I am learning, I am improving, I am worthy, life rushes to confirm those two. The universe always agrees with your self-concept. Each morning, I began to observe the moment I woke. Was my first thought kind or critical? Was I greeting the day as a friend or as a drill sergeant? When I noticed that, I often began the day already scolding myself. I understood why my body felt heavy before I even left the bed. I had been starting every morning with a reprimand. I decided to experiment. Instead of saying, you must do better today, I began with, good morning, dear one. At first it felt strange, even foolish, but the body knows sincerity. It recognized that phrase as comfort, not command. My shoulders dropped, my breath deepened, my mind grew quiet. That was the first moment I tasted peace in years. Self-criticism often disguises itself as self-improvement. We think, if I don't push myself, I'll never change. But change born of fear cannot last. What we resist, we recreate. The energy of disapproval cannot produce harmony any more than darkness can create light. Growth is a process of encouragement, not condemnation. I have met countless people who came to me weary from years of self-attack. They were intelligent, capable, and yet deeply tired. They had been carrying the burden of their own judgment for decades. When they began to speak to themselves with kindness, they were astonished at the results. Their faces softened, their sleep improved, their bodies healed. The mind is a garden, the thoughts are seeds. What you plant, you harvest. Criticism plants weeds of guilt and fear. Kindness plants flowers of confidence and ease. You cannot harvest peace from seeds of war. Choose your words as though they were drops of water. Each one has the power to nourish or to wither. When you catch yourself saying should, pause. Replace it with could. The word should carries the weight of shame. The word could carries the breath of possibility. One word closes, the other opens. The language we use with ourselves becomes the atmosphere we live in. The day I realized that I could not punish myself into healing was the day my life began to change. I had spent years believing that self-love would make me lazy, that only disapproval kept me striving. But I discovered the opposite. When I approved of myself, I wanted to care for myself. When I was kind, I had energy. Love, not criticism, became my greatest motivator. No teacher, no book, no method can heal a person who continues to think unkindly about themselves. Healing requires cooperation between the mind and the body, and love is the language they both understand. When the mind begins to approve, the body begins to relax. The nervous system finally receives permission to release its grip. It is never too late to change this habit. Even now, you can pause and listen. How have you spoken to yourself today? Would you speak that way to a dear friend? If not, then you are due for gentleness. You do not need to be perfect. You need only be willing. Willingness opens every locked door. As you go through your day, notice the tone of your thoughts. Catch yourself in the act of self-criticism, not to judge it, but to understand it. That voice is not the truth of who you are. It is merely an echo of what you once heard. Thank it for trying to protect you, and then gently choose a kinder tone. The moment you replace what's wrong with me with what do I need right now, you shift from judgment to care. That shift is the beginning of healing. The mind learns quickly when it is treated kindly. Each small act of self-understanding becomes a stone in the foundation of peace. You are not your mistakes. You are the love that learns from them. Every error has served to bring you closer to awareness. Every time you catch yourself in criticism and choose compassion instead, you are rewiring your entire inner world toward healing. And so I say to you, as I once said to myself, you cannot punish yourself into growth. You cannot shame yourself into peace. You can only love yourself there. The moment you decide to speak to yourself as you would to a dear child, you begin to heal. The body is always listening. It does not argue, it does not reason, it does not delay. It simply obeys the instructions given by our thoughts. Every word we think is a message carried through the bloodstream. Every emotion becomes chemistry. If the mind speaks harshly, the body tenses. If the mind whispers kindness, the body sighs in relief. When I was younger, I treated my body as an inconvenience. I ignored its needs, criticized its shape, and blamed it for my pain. I believed that if I could just correct the body, I would finally feel at peace. But I did not understand then that my body was only mirroring my mind. The conflict was never in the flesh, it was in the thoughts I fed it. During the years of my illness, I began to notice how closely my physical pain followed the rhythm of my thinking. When I spoke kindly to myself, my energy lifted. When I criticized myself, everything tightened again. I realized that my body had not betrayed me. It had been faithfully translating my self-judgment into sensation. Every organ, every muscle, every cell listens to our inner dialogue. The heart beats faster when we feel afraid. The stomach churns when we feel guilt. The skin flushes when we feel shame. The body does not know the difference between a real event and a thought vividly believed. To the body, every criticism is a command to contract, to defend, to brace for harm. One morning, as I was sitting quietly, I placed my hand over my heart and whispered, "You have done so well. Thank you for carrying me." To my surprise, tears came. The body understands sincerity. It knows when it is being appreciated. That single act of gratitude opened a channel of communication that I had ignored for years. From that day, I began speaking to my body as though it were a beloved friend. When I felt pain, I no longer asked, "What is wrong with you?" I asked, "What are you trying to tell me?" Pain, I learned, is not an enemy. It is a messenger. It speaks in the only language it knows. Sensation. If we hush it with pills and punishment, it must shout louder. But when we listen with love, it softens its voice. I remember once meeting a woman whose chronic back pain had persisted for decades. She said, "My body has betrayed me." I asked her to imagine her back as a loyal companion who had carried the burdens of her life. When she placed her hand there and said, "Thank you for supporting me all these years," she began to weep. Within weeks, her pain eased. Love had reached the place medicine could not. Every self-critical thought we think is heard by the body. When we call ourselves stupid, clumsy, or unworthy, the body reacts with confusion and tension. It contracts as if trying to hide from the attack. Yet when we say, "It's all right, dear one, you are learning," the body relaxes immediately. This is not imagination. It is physiology responding to affection. I have often said the body loves you. It truly does. It wakes each morning ready to serve, to move, to breathe. Even after years of neglect, it continues its quiet devotion. It repairs, cuts, balances temperature, and keeps the heart beating faithfully. When we finally begin to return that love, it rejoices. Healing begins not as a miracle from outside, but as a homecoming within. Many of us learn to use our minds as weapons against our own bodies. We stare into mirrors and judge. We compare, correct, condemn. We forget that the body is a living temple, not a sculpture to be criticized. The moment we shift from judgment to gratitude, we begin to restore the sacred relationship between mind and flesh. The body's language is subtle but precise. A headache may whisper, "You are thinking too hard." A stiff neck may say, "You are being stubborn." Fatigue may be pleading, "Please, let me rest." When we meet these messages with curiosity rather than fear, we allow healing intelligence to do its work. The body is always on our side. It only asks for cooperation. In my workshops, I often invite people to place a hand over the part of their body that troubles them and say, "I love you, I am listening." At first they feel awkward, even foolish, but within moments, something changes. The shoulders drop, the breath deepens, the eyes soften. That is the power of recognition. The body has been waiting for our approval. We cannot bully the body into health. We cannot shame it into wellness. Healing requires friendship, not discipline. When you send your body messages of love through thought, word, and touch, you activate its natural harmony. The cells themselves begin to organize around peace. The body's true state is balance, and love is the key that unlocks it. When I learned to treat my body as an ally, I began to notice small miracles. The aches lessened, the skin glowed, the posture lifted. My body seemed to say, "Finally, she is on my side." This was not vanity, it was respect. When we bless our bodies, they respond with gratitude. When we curse them, they only grow tired and confused. I often ask people, "What would your body say if it could speak?" Some laugh, some cry, some say it would beg me to slow down. The truth is, it is speaking all the time. Every discomfort, every sigh, every craving is its way of seeking balance. Listen gently, and you will discover that the body is not demanding, it is merely honest. There is a reason why love heals faster than fear. Love lowers the defenses. It tells the body you are safe. When the body feels safe, the healing systems awaken. Blood flows freely, digestion improves, sleep deepens. These are not coincidences. They are the natural results of inner harmony. If you wish to heal, begin with your words. Catch yourself when you say, I hate my thighs, I'm getting old, I'm so tired of this body. Each of those statements is a command. Replace them gently with appreciation. These legs carry me. This body has served me faithfully. I am grateful for all that works. You will feel the shift immediately. Healing is not something we force upon the body, it is something we allow by ceasing the attack. The body's wisdom is vast. It knows how to mend when the mind stops interfering. Every kind thought you offer it is an act of cooperation with life's intelligence. I once believed that my body was my problem. Now I know it is my teacher. It shows me where my thoughts have strayed from love and guides me back through feeling. Each ache, each fatigue, each tension is an invitation to soften, to listen, to forgive. So as you sit now, place your hand over your heart. Feel it beating faithfully for you. It has never stopped, working not once, not even on the days when you were cruel to yourself. Whisper to it, thank you. This small act of reverence is where true healing begins. The next time you feel pain, do not rush to silence it. Ask gently, what are you trying to show me? Then listen not with fear, but with compassion. The body will answer in its own quiet way. It will tell you what thought needs love, what feeling needs release, and when you respond with kindness, it will begin to heal. Every time you choose a kind thought, your body breathes easier. Every time you replace criticism with appreciation, your cells receive light. Over time, this becomes a new rhythm of living, one of harmony instead of tension, of approval instead of attack. Remember always, your body hears everything your mind says. Speak to it as you would to someone you love dearly. Thank it often. Listen well. And it will reward you with vitality, peace, and a sense of companionship you may have never known before. Because your body is not your enemy, it is the living proof that life loves you enough to keep you here, beating, breathing, and capable of healing the moment you stop wounding yourself with words. There came a moment in my own journey when I realized that the voice of criticism had only ever wanted to keep me safe. It had learned fear, not truth. Every scolding, every harsh word I turned inward began somewhere with parents, teachers, or other frightened souls who thought discipline was love. When I understood this, judgment began to melt. The inner critic softened the instant it was seen not as an enemy, but as a child repeating what it had been taught. Understanding is the balm that dissolves self-condemnation. To understand oneself is to forgive oneself. I began to look back on all the moments I had labeled as mistakes and saw them differently. They were not failures, they were lessons. They were my soul's way of showing me where love had been forgotten. The mind had been punishing the very experiences that were trying to teach it. When I first began teaching others, I noticed how quick they were to correct themselves. I shouldn't have said that. I always mess things up. I'm terrible at this. I could see in their eyes that they believed these words would make them better. Yet every phrase of self-blame only deepened their wariness. I would say, my dear, what if you are not wrong? What if you are simply learning? The relief that appeared in their faces was always the first sign of healing. I started practicing this myself. Each time I caught a self-critical thought, I paused and asked, is this true or is this habit? Most of the time, it was habit. My mind was replaying old lessons from people who no longer had any place in my present. Slowly, I began to replace those old statements with gentler ones. I failed became, I learned something valuable. I should have known better became now I understand. It felt like learning a new language, the language of kindness. There is a vast difference between correction and compassion. Correction says you did wrong. Compassion says you can try again. The first tightens the body, the second opens it. When we approach ourselves with understanding, the energy of self-improvement changes from strain to curiosity. We no longer struggle to be worthy. We simply allow growth to happen as naturally as breathing. Many people fear that if they stop criticizing themselves, they will lose motivation. But fear-driven effort never leads to lasting success. The body may obey for a time, but the heart grows weary. Only love can inspire the kind of strength that endures. When we understand ourselves, we want to do better, not to earn worth, but to express it. Understanding is like sunlight in a dark room. It reveals what was always there. I remember writing one day, "I am willing to understand myself." It felt simple, but powerful. From that willingness, peace began to seep into corners of my mind I didn't know were cold. I learned that willingness opens the door wider than any perfection ever could. We are not here to earn approval. We are here to express the love that is already within us. That love does not vanish because we make mistakes. It waits patiently beneath every error. When we meet ourselves with understanding, we clear the way for it to rise again. When I was younger, I thought forgiveness meant excusing what was wrong. Now I see that forgiveness simply means understanding what was human. Every unkind word I've ever spoken came from fear. Every poor choice came from confusion. The same is true for you. When you understand this, you no longer need to carry the heavy label of wrong. You begin to see yourself with the eyes of compassion. Each time you catch yourself in criticism, you have a sacred opportunity. You can continue the old pattern of blame, or you can pause and breathe. Ask gently, what do I need right now? Understanding speaks in questions, not accusations. It invites curiosity instead of shame. Self-criticism says, you always do this. Understanding says, I see why this hurts. Criticism shouts, understanding listens. Criticism hardens. Understanding melts. It is through this melting that the heart reclaims its freedom. Patience is another form of understanding. When we give ourselves time to grow, we create space for miracles. The mind may rush and demand perfection, but life unfolds at its own pace. When you trust that timing, you no longer need to drive yourself with guilt. You can walk beside yourself as a friend rather than a taskmaster. To befriend oneself is to become trustworthy to one's own heart. When you begin to treat yourself with kindness, the mind relaxes enough to show you its fears honestly. You start to see that the inner critic was only trying to prevent pain. It said, don't fail again, because it remembered how much failure once hurt. When you understand that, you can comfort it instead of fighting it. There is a simple practice I often share. When you notice self-criticism, place a hand on your heart and say, I am learning and I love myself anyway. The heart immediately responds to these words. The breath deepens, the body loosens, and the mind quiets. This is how we teach ourselves to think differently, not through argument, but through kindness repeated. I have watched people's lives transform when they begin to replace criticism with understanding. Their faces brighten, their posture lifts, and they start to laugh more freely. It is as if they have been carrying a heavy bag. They suddenly realize they can set down. They do not become careless, they become conscious. Self-approval does not dull awareness, it sharpens it. When we understand ourselves, we no longer need others' approval to feel safe. We no longer chase perfection because we have discovered peace. The world becomes a gentler mirror. Others treat us as we treat ourselves. And so understanding ripples outward into every relationship. There is deep wisdom in this. What we accept in ourselves, we can accept in others. When you release your own self-condemnation, you stop judging the world so harshly. The peace you give yourself becomes the peace you offer to life. As I grew in this practice, I found that I began to trust myself again. I no longer feared my mistakes. I saw them as signs that I was alive, learning, expanding. The anxiety that once accompanied every decision slowly disappeared. Understanding replaced fear with faith. You are not the sum of your errors. You are the awareness that learns from them. This realization is freedom. It allows you to walk through life unafraid of imperfection. You become your own encourager, your own teacher, your own gentle guide. When I first learned to say I approve of myself, I didn't fully believe it, but I said it anyway, over and over, until it began to take root. Each repetition was an act of understanding, a promise to be on my own side, even when I stumbled. Slowly, the approval became real, and life began to blossom where there had once been only effort. Self-acceptance is not indulgence, it is intelligence. The mind that loves itself learns quickly. It no longer wastes energy on guilt and comparison. It uses that energy to create, to heal, to grow. The person who approves of themselves becomes unstoppable, not through force, but through alignment with love. And so, I remind you gently, you cannot think your way out of criticism. You can only understand your way beyond it. Every time you choose patience over blame, tenderness over tension, you are teaching your mind to trust love again. That trust is the foundation upon which all healing stands. Let understanding be your new language. Speak it often, listen with it deeply, and soon the voice of criticism will fade like an echo from another life. You will find yourself living in the calm assurance that you are, and always have been, good enough to love. There is a moment that changes everything, the moment you stand before a mirror and truly look into your own eyes, not to check your hair or to correct a flaw, but to meet yourself. Most people glance into mirrors and see only what they dislike. They see every imagined imperfection, every wrinkle, every judgment reflected back. But the mirror, dear one, is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It will show you how you truly feel about yourself. When I first began mirror work, I could barely look into my own eyes. I had helped so many others learn to love themselves, yet my own reflection still carried the weight of my past. I stood before that glass and said softly, "I love you." The words caught in my throat. I did not believe them. My eyes filled with tears because the mirror told me the truth. I had not yet made peace with myself, but I did not give up. Each morning I returned. I stood there in silence, hand on my heart, and whispered the words again. I love you, Louise. I really, really love you. The first few days felt awkward, even painful. The mind resisted. It said, you don't deserve that. But love is patient. It waited for my willingness, and one day, something changed. The resistance softened, and I saw not a collection of flaws, but a human being who had survived, who had tried, who had always meant well. The mirror does not lie, it reflects what we believe. When you meet your eyes without judgment, you are witnessing the moment of awakening. You may feel tears rise, or laughter, or a strange tenderness. These are signs that the walls of self-condemnation are beginning to crumble. Each glance becomes a conversation with your soul. Many people fear the mirror because it seems to reveal only the surface. But if you look long enough, you begin to see beneath it. You see the child within you who has been waiting all these years for someone to say, you are enough. That child does not need more achievements, more beauty, more approval. It needs only your love. The mirror becomes a sacred altar when used in this way. Each morning, stand before it and speak kindly. You may begin simply, good morning, I am proud of you for showing up, or you are learning and I love you as you are, these gentle statements begin to retrain the mind. The body relaxes because it finally feels safe in your presence. The heart opens because it is being invited to trust again. I once taught a woman who could not say I love you to herself. She said it felt false, so I asked her to say instead, I am willing to love you. That willingness became the doorway. Within weeks, she found herself smiling at her reflection. Her posture changed, her eyes brightened, love entered through the smallest crack in her resistance. There is tremendous healing in the daily act of self-approval. When you look into your own eyes with compassion, you are rewriting years of self-rejection. You are telling your subconscious you are no longer under attack. The body responds immediately. It begins to rest. The nervous system quiets. The immune system strengthens. Love is not only emotional medicine, it is physical nourishment. The mirror can also reveal your progress more clearly than words can. One day, you will notice that your reflection no longer startles you. You will see softness instead of judgment. The same eyes that once looked with disappointment will now shine with warmth. That is how you will know your inner work is taking root. The practice is simple but profound. Look, breathe, speak kindly. Do it even when you do not feel loving, especially then. The mind learns through repetition, not perfection. Each time you return to the mirror, you are choosing to stand on the side of love. That choice builds power until one day you realize that the critic has gone silent. I remember the morning I looked into the mirror and saw not my past, but my potential. I smiled and said, I approve of myself. The words no longer trembled, they rang clear. In that moment, I knew that everything in my life could change because my relationship with myself had changed. The outer world always follows the inner one. When you make peace with your reflection, you make peace with all of life. The people who once mirrored your insecurities begin to mirror your confidence. The situations that once seemed hostile soften. Life reflects your new self-approval just as faithfully as the mirror once reflected your doubt. The mirror is not magic, it is truth. It shows you what you believe, and belief creates experience. If you stand before it saying, I am unworthy, the world agrees. If you stand before it saying, I am loved and loving, the world agrees even more. This is how healing becomes visible. It begins within, and then it shines through your eyes for all to see. There will be mornings when the old voice returns. That is all right. Simply smile at yourself and say, ah, you again. I know you mean well, but we are doing things differently now. Then return to your affirmation. Consistency, not intensity, creates transformation. The heart opens a little more each day that you choose kindness. In time, you will find that the mirror becomes your friend. It greets you in the morning and says, hello, dear one. You will nod and answer, thank you for being here. That dialogue may seem simple, but it is the most important conversation you will ever have. It is the conversation of love with itself. So stand before your mirror and look with gentleness. Speak words that soothe rather than demand. Approve of yourself for trying, for healing, for living. Even if the voice of love feels faint at first, keep going. Love grows stronger through practice, and one day you will hear nothing else. When you love the person in the mirror, the need to impress or prove fades away. You no longer live to earn approval, you live to express joy. You walk through the world with quiet confidence because you are at home within yourself. This is what true self-love feels like, peaceful, natural, steady. Remember, the mirror cannot love you back until you love the image it reflects. Look deeply, see beyond the surface. The person staring back is not your enemy, not your problem, not your project. That person is your oldest friend, your greatest teacher, your own heart asking to be remembered. And when you finally meet that gaze with kindness, you will understand what I discovered all those years ago, that the mirror has never been your judge. It has been waiting to become your witness. There comes a time when we must look behind us, not to reopen old wounds, but to release the weight we have been carrying. Much of the self-criticism we live with is not even ours. It is inherited. The voice that scolds you today may once have belonged to a parent, a teacher, or a figure of authority who believed that harshness was the same as guidance. They did not know another way, and so, without realizing it, we became the echo of their pain. I remember the day I discovered this truth within myself. I had been repeating an old phrase in my mind, something cruel I had once heard as a child. It was as though the past still lived in my thoughts, uninvited yet powerful. And I realized this is not my voice. It was borrowed, it was learned, it was time to return it to the past. When we carry the judgments of others, we imprison ourselves for crimes we never committed. Forgiveness is the key that opens the door. Forgiving those who taught us to doubt ourselves does not excuse their behavior. It releases us from its hold. We cannot rewrite what happened, but we can choose to stop reliving it. The past does not need our punishment, it needs our peace. There is a tenderness that arises when we understand that those who hurt us were also hurting. My parents, like so many of their generation, did not know the language of love. They knew only correction, authority, and silence. When I forgave them, I did not say it was right. I said it is over. I laid down the burden that was never mine to carry, and in doing so, I set myself free. Forgiveness is not a single act. It is a daily decision to stop visiting the same old sorrow. Each time we recall a painful memory and fill it with regret, we tighten the chains again. But when we bless the memory, when we say, "Thank you for teaching me," we transform the chain into a thread of wisdom. The past ceases to wound, it begins to instruct. I often guide people to speak aloud. I release you and set you free. You are free and I am free. At first, the words may feel hollow, but with each repetition, they gain power. Forgiveness grows like dawn. It starts dimly, then floods the entire sky. One morning, you wake and realize that you have not thought about the old pain for days. It has dissolved in the light of understanding. Self-forgiveness is the highest form of liberation. Many of us can forgive others easily, but we clutch our own guilt like a treasure. We replay every error, every moment we wish we could redo, yet every mistake was a teacher in disguise. I often tell people, you did the best you could with the understanding you had at the time. That sentence has healed more hearts than any I know. When I finally forgave myself, I felt as though 1,000 pounds had lifted from my chest. I realized that I had been keeping myself imprisoned with invisible bars made of should have been wiser, kinder, braver, faster. But the truth is, I could not have been any of those things until I learned what I have now learned. Life unfolds in perfect timing. We must allow ourselves the same mercy we extend to others. The act of forgiving yourself is not weakness, it is wisdom. It says, I trust life enough to know that I am always growing. The guilt that once seemed noble becomes unnecessary. Guilt serves only to anchor us in the past. Once we have learned from a mistake, guilt no longer has a purpose. We can let it go with gratitude for the lesson it brought. I often imagine the past as a great river. Every thought, every experience, every word ever spoken flows downstream into memory. We can stand on the shore and curse the river, or we can bless it and allow it to carry away what no longer serves us. When I bless my past, I no longer fear it. I see it as a story that shaped me, not a prison that confines me. If there are people you cannot yet forgive, begin with willingness. Say, I am willing to forgive. You do not have to feel it right away. Willingness is the seed from which true forgiveness grows. In time, understanding will blossom, and your heart will open naturally. Remember, forgiveness is not a favor you grant to others, it is a gift you give to yourself. When I look at the faces of those I once blamed, I no longer see enemies. I see fellow learners, travelers doing their best with limited awareness. This does not mean I invite everyone back into my life. Forgiveness does not require reunion, it requires release. It is the quiet act of saying, you no longer have power over my thoughts. Each time we forgive, we reclaim a piece of our energy that was trapped in resentment. That energy returns to the present, where it belongs. Suddenly there is more vitality, more joy, more peace. The mind grows lighter and the body follows. Resentment is a heavy armor. Forgiveness lets us breathe again. Forgiveness also transforms our relationship with time. When we hold on to old pain, the past keeps leaking into the present, coloring every experience. But when we forgive, we return to the now, where healing can actually happen.
The present moment is where life loves to meet us. The future, too, begins to open when we stop looking backward. A forgiven past becomes fertile soil for new beginnings.
The same experiences that once caused shame can now inspire compassion for others. Pain recycled through forgiveness becomes wisdom. Pain recycled through guilt becomes disease. We have the power to choose which it will be. There is immense beauty in saying, I am finished with suffering. That sentence is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration of worthiness. You deserve to live unburdened by yesterday. You deserve to meet each sunrise without the weight of old stories pressing upon your chest. I often visualize myself placing every regret, every memory of pain into a soft light and watching it dissolve. Sometimes I whisper, thank you for teaching me patience. Thank you for teaching me courage. Gratitude transforms even our deepest wounds into teachers. This is not denial, it is mastery of energy. When we forgive, the future begins to shimmer with possibility. The same mind that once punished now begins to bless. You find yourself dreaming again, trusting again, believing again. Forgiveness returns the creative power that guilt had stolen. It makes you a participant in life once more. And so I invite you to bless your past, bless every mistake, every heartbreak, every time you fell and rose again. See how each of those moments made you stronger, softer, wiser. Thank them and let them rest. You do not live there anymore. Because forgiveness is freedom, and freedom is love's natural state. When we forgive ourselves, we stop walking backward. We face the light and begin to move forward with grace. The past has completed its purpose. The future is a clean page, waiting for your new story to be written in kindness. There is a kind of peace that arrives when we finally decide to be on our own side. For years, I waited for others to love me the way I longed to be loved, gently, consistently, without condition. It was only when I learned to offer that love to myself that I discovered what friendship truly means. To become your own best friend is to come home. It is to create the safety you once sought from others within your own heart. I used to think self-love was selfish. I thought it meant indulgence or vanity. But true self-love is quiet and steady. It is not a boast, it is a breath. It is waking each morning and saying, good morning, dear one, I am here for you. It is the promise that you will not abandon yourself again, no matter what the day brings. When we begin to treat ourselves as a friend, we stop measuring our worth by performance. We stop pushing through exhaustion to earn approval. We start asking, what would a friend say to me now? And we begin to answer honestly. A friend would not scold you for resting. A friend would not shame you for feeling tired. A friend would remind you that your best is enough. I often tell people that the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every relationship in your life. When you are kind within, you attract kindness without. When you are patient with yourself, you naturally become patient with others. Friendship with oneself is the foundation of harmony. It creates a world where love feels safe to dwell. I remember a woman in one of my workshops who always apologized for everything. If she coughed, she apologized. If she took a moment to find her words, she apologized. When I asked her why, she said, "I'm used to being a burden." We began practicing small acts of self-kindness. Each time she caught herself saying, "I'm sorry," she replaced it with "thank you for understanding." Within weeks, her entire posture changed. She stood taller. She smiled more. She had become her own ally. To befriend yourself is to speak gently, to comfort instead of correct. It means learning to sit with your feelings without judgment. It means celebrating small victories instead of ignoring them. Even something as simple as saying, "You handled that well." Plant seeds of confidence in the soil of your soul. Love grows best in acknowledgement. There was a time when I would criticize myself for not being further along. I thought I should know better by now. But friendship replaced that with patience. I began to say, "I am learning at the perfect pace for me." The tension that once filled my chest began to dissolve. The more I approved of myself, the more life seemed to approve of me in return. Self-love does not mean you will never make mistakes. It means you will meet those mistakes with understanding. It means you will hold your own hand instead of turning away. When a true friend falters, we do not scold them, we remind them of their strength. We must learn to do the same for ourselves. I once asked a man who had spent his life in self-doubt to list what he admired in his friends. He wrote, "They are loyal, forgiving, honest, and kind." I smiled and said, "Those are the qualities your soul is asking you to show yourself." He looked startled, then tears filled his eyes. That was the moment he realized that love was not missing, it had only been misdirected. To become your own best friend is to stop waiting for permission to feel good about yourself. It is to know that you are deserving of peace simply because you exist. You do not have to earn your place on this earth. You were born worthy, and nothing you do can remove that worthiness. Love does not need justification, it needs recognition. As I began to treat myself with friendship, everything around me began to shift. The people in my life responded to my calm. My body relaxed. My mind became clear. When you stop fighting yourself, life stops fighting you. The energy that once went into self-criticism becomes available for creativity, joy, and rest. Friendship with oneself is the highest form of trust. It says, "I will be gentle with you even when you stumble." It is this trust that allows the heart to remain open. When you know that you will not betray yourself again, you walk through the world with quiet strength. Others feel safe in your presence because you are finally safe with yourself. I began creating small rituals of self-friendship. I thanked my body at night for carrying me through the day. I placed a hand on my heart and said, "You did well today." In the mornings, I smiled at my reflection and whispered, "Let's make this a beautiful day." These simple gestures carried more power than grand affirmations because they were consistent. Love grows through repetition. You might begin the same way. When you catch yourself in self-criticism, pause and imagine how you would speak to a dear friend in that moment. Then speak that way to yourself. If you forgot something, say, "It's all right. You'll remember next time." If you made a mistake, say, "That's how we learn." If you feel weary, say, "Rest, dear one. You've done enough for now." These words build a friendship that nothing can shake. As the friendship deepens, you begin to see that life itself is friendly. You realize that the universe is not punishing, it is guiding. You notice how circumstances that once felt cruel now reveal hidden blessings. Love inside creates love outside. The world becomes a reflection of your inner companionship. Self-love is not about perfection. It is about presence. It is being there for yourself in every season, sunlight and storm alike. It is speaking gently when the old voice of judgment rises and saying, "Thank you, but we don't do that anymore." It is the choice to live in harmony with yourself instead of hostility. When you become your own best friend, loneliness fades. You are never truly alone because you have yourself. You walk through life with a companion who knows your heart, forgives your flaws, and celebrates your growth. That companionship becomes a source of endless comfort. In time, you will notice how effortlessly life supports you. Opportunities arrive more easily, relationships feel smoother, health improves. This is not magic, it is alignment. Life mirrors the love you give yourself. The moment you stop criticizing and start appreciating, life rushes to meet you halfway. So each morning, take a deep breath and greet yourself kindly. Say, "Good morning, dear one. I love you. Let's make this a beautiful day." Do this not as a ritual to fix yourself, but as a reminder that you are already whole. You are not broken. You are blossoming. The truth I have seen proven again and again is this: when you stop criticizing yourself and start loving yourself, everything in your life begins to work. The body heals, the mind rests, the heart opens, life begins to flow easily. Because you are no longer resisting it, you have become your own ally, your own encourager, your own best friend. And as you walk through your days with this new companionship, remember you are safe now, you are loved, you are enough. Speak to yourself as you would to someone precious, for you are. Love yourself well and watch how life, in return, loves you back.